Hey, good morning. Bree was like, I should have played a weed song. No. I can start over if you want.
No.
No, that's not
No,
over.
I figured you would have brought in some weed.
No,
Since you were so excited, we're going to go with Mr. Parkinson.
Will has some, he's got the stash, I think. Will?
Are you
Hey, how's it going,
waked
guys?
and baked?
I hope you're having a blessed morning.
We are.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, Will Parkinson of the Cannabis Control Board. Just a newsflash, you've been following along. I actually had to tell Sabrina what wake and bake is, just so you know. And also, the AG has never...
Yeah, it's a time-honored tradition of medical cannabis users waking up in the morning and starting off fresh. You know, that smell of Folgers in the morning, they have that same reaction to some high-quality bud in the morning, you know? It's all a good time.
And what do you believe are some of the medical benefits of cannabis over coffee in the morning, Will?
Well, I think it's better for stress, you know, and long term, I'm not a big fan of caffeine. I don't drink coffee myself, so all my morning energy is au naturel. And you know, I just don't like that dependency factor of caffeine.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Right on. Well, there you go, Bree. You convinced yet or what?
No, I'll stick with my coffee over cannabis.
You got to give me a 24-hour heads up, though, so I know what to bring in for you. Now, Will, on a serious note here, so the rules and regs for adult use cannabis done, correct?
Well, we are at the finish line. We have just gone through all of the sections of every part of our draft through the public hearings, and now we are forwarding them to the compiler of laws so that they can put the bill together in a cohesive manner together, you know, as a single unified bill. And I would be shocked if we did not have the thing passed by the end of this week and ready for public review, because that's the next step.
Right.
Is we have this compiled as a single omnibus bill. We release it to the public, and they have time to read it and comment on it, and we get to make any last-minute changes based on public input. But this is a Spike the Football tour. We are there, and I am happy to report that we are through all the sections of the draft, and it's moving along. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand that people are upset that we didn't make our deadline of April, but once we got back to working after COVID allowed us to work again, we did our best to finish the rules with the amount of time we had left from before coronavirus. That was our big goal. Mm-hmm. Like, even if we couldn't do it on time, we still wanted to do it within the time frame we were allowed. And I'm very happy to report that it looks like we're going to finish it in time.
Well,
so what happens after, what's the public comment period? Is that like 30 days?
Excuse me?
The public comment period, is it 30 days?
No. I believe what we're gonna have in store for public comments is we're gonna have a weeks long. That's we were planning before coronavirus. We're gonna have a week worth of public hearings at different times of the day, so that every citizen of Guam could find the time frame during the public hearing week that they could come out and make their voices be heard. You know, so that was one of the things we're looking at. We're looking for a very varied public hearing comment time, so that people can go out and, you know, let their position be heard on it. And because that was one of the things I was always worried about with public hearings, is I know a lot of the times, especially with like how the legislature does it, you know, not everyone could be at all these public hearings because of work or other responsibilities. So we want to avoid that pitfall and give people plenty of opportunities, because this is a community project, and we do want to get the community's input to, you know, make sure they're happy with it too.
Right. Well, let's just start with these new rules and regs. Will gift giving of cannabis among adults still be allowed under the new rules and regs?
I'm sorry, what?
Will the gift giving of cannabis among adults still be allowed under the new rules and regs?
Oh, yeah. The rules that we're putting into place have nothing to do with personal consumption or anything. This is strictly industry rules.
Okay.
Personal rules have been set by the original bill,
Right,
and we
right.
can't touch that. So
Okay.
things like home cultivation and
6 plants.
carrying limits,
Right.
we don't really have any say over that because that's written hard into the
I
law
see.
already.
So I guess, are there caps for commercial licenses? For example, if I want to own a bunch of dispensaries, is there a limit on the number of dispensaries that I can own, or I could get a commercial license for?
Well, right now we don't have any caps on licenses.
Okay.
I believe right now that we have a fresh industry and we don't need to do anything to discourage people from investing into the industry and getting something stood up. The guiding principle that we had on the board was we want to be as least onerous to businesses as possible. We want to make sure that we are not getting in the way of people starting these businesses, because these businesses are major operations. Some of them can go into the millions of dollars to stand up and operate.
Right.
And so I don't think we need to patronize and condescend to these business people about how they need to run their business. They know what they need to do
Right.
to make that business successful. So we just need to get out of their way.
Well,
Put down the minimum framework that we can, and then let survival of the fittest do its thing.
what about the independent lab? Will an independent lab still be needed for farms and dispensaries to operate?
I believe there are some packets in the works for labs, but I have an idea that people had thought was controversial at the time, but my position was, if we are all ready to go and labs are the last thing that are holding us back, we need to look at the precedent that some states have done, where they have a rule written in place where if they can test, they will test. But if for whatever reason they do not have enough testing labs, they have a provision that allows them to waive testing for the good of the market. I got my pee-pee slapped a little bit for that one, but I think that's the answer. If for whatever reason the labs are not ready to go, there's jurisdictions in the states that don't even require testing at all. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm told that there are plenty of packets with labs ready to go. So if that's the case, then my position is a moot point anyway.
Let's talk about the future of adult use cannabis on Guam with the rules and regs. What types of businesses are going to be allowed? Are we going to see Amsterdam style cafes? What I guess if you could just give us some examples of what will be allowed for, I guess, consumer use. Not necessarily the big dispensaries and stuff, but I'm thinking more of these cannabis boutiques. I think they
Like
call them.
edibles?
Right. Yeah, the edibles. Oh, Bree knows about the edibles.
Products they'll have?
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
like what kind of businesses are going to be allowed? Are we going to have cannabis cafes?
Well, there's three types of cannabis, or four types of cannabis businesses that will pop up. A direct cannabis business. The first type of direct cannabis business will be the cultivators. It starts there with the cultivators. They make the raw product of flower. And then from the cultivators, it'll go to one of either two places. It'll either go to a manufacturer who will then produce the flower into some sort of concentrated product, whether it be dabs or edibles or what have you. Anything in its beyond base form of flower will be made at the manufacturers. And as far as manufacturing goes, kind of sky's the limit there.
Right.
It really depends on the ingenuity of the business people who want to do something like this, because really that's where it comes down. So the variety we'll get in non-flower products really depends on the manufacturers that come to the table.
I see.
And then the third type of business would be the dispensaries. Manufacturers and cultivators would both sell their products to dispensaries, and from the dispensaries, those products get out to the public. And then the fourth direct cannabis business is the labs, of course, to test it between the cultivator and manufacturer phase on the way to the retail phase. Once it gets to the retail phase, it's tested and ready for sale.
So that's where
And
on-site
so
consumption.
those
is
are
that-
the direct business that you're going to see,
Okay.
and there's going to be ancillary businesses that pop up to support cannabis industry. Property management companies, security firms, all these things that go to support it. CO2 vendors, all these other businesses that support these 4 types of direct cannabis businesses
Visine
will be a
dispensaries.
part of the ancillary businesses that come up.
What about on-site consumption? Well, I don't know if you covered that. That's what I meant to ask.
Oh, outside consumption. Okay,
On-site,
yeah, no.
on-site
If
consumption.
you actually go back to our pre-COVID meetings,
Okay.
we were actually, like as I was saying, we were right at the tail end of all our work at COVID. So even then, I was looking past our rules, and outdoor consumption is something past our rules that I'm looking to advocate for, because I think that a real draw for the international community is if we can make Guam a hub for outdoor festivals of some sort, 420 Fest. And so as early as March, before all this happened, I'm looking past our rules, trying to advocate to our other board members that we need to start up a mechanism for an outdoor consumption permit, so that if people wanted to use cannabis at their concert, party, whatever, there's some sort of mechanism that they can pay a fee to somebody, have a permit, and all of a sudden their event is outside smoking friendly.
All right. As opposed to the old-fashioned way when people just did it, right? I've hosted some concerts in my time.
As opposed to the old-fashioned way where people just did it.
Right. Yeah.
Right, maybe,
All right.
and like real talk, maybe, in small groups of 3 or 4 people just do it anyway. But if somebody wants to have a big 200, 300, 400 person bash, this is what I envision the outdoor consumption permits for.
Right. Okay.
And not only that, it would be a direct source of revenue directly to the government that has nothing to do with sales, just allowing people to do it outside at very specific venues, very specific events.
Mm-hmm. So how soon can we see these rules and regs, these draft rules and regs online or wherever you guys are going to put them before these public hearings that you're going to hold?
And how many pages?
I'm sorry, Sabrina, I didn't hear you. What was that again?
Where can we read the rules and regulations before the public hearing?
Well, the rules have not been released for public consumption yet. I suspect that we'll have that vote this next coming meeting.
I see.
And
by the end of this week?
I believe after this next meeting, we'll have it released for public consumption. We have to officially vote on it. Right now, it's going through the compilers of laws. They're just organizing it into a single bill. And once that gets spit back to us, I suspect that we'll take action as far as releasing it to the public.
Right.
And then the public will provide their input, and then it's voted on by
I
the
believe
legislature?
they'll have 2 weeks to read just to read it. They'll have 2 weeks to read it. And I believe we're trying to set up a week-long period of public hearings so that we can receive their input.
Okay. A part of the original law, there was language included in the law about studies that were supposed to be conducted. Are you familiar with that?
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble hearing your mic, Sabrina. I apologize. Say that one more time,
She's
please.
talking about studies in the law. I think there was something like they were supposed to do some studies about the use or use or something.
We did do a study. An economic impact study was done by GVB, but this was done pre-corona. So all those numbers in it are, take it with a grain of salt at this point, because it was using pre-corona tourist numbers to help kind of make the baseline for what we were expecting there.
Right on.
But there's a second economic impact study that we're actually looking to do, and this is not a predictive economic impact study. This is something that we're looking to do a year or 2 into the industry, so we can look back on what the actual effect was as opposed to what we thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, maybe
Okay.
maybe you can send over the results of that
Right,
study, and
yeah.
we can look at that.
Yeah.
I know Chris is very interested in
I
this
am.
subject.
Yeah. Also, that's some nice bougainvillea, but you have growing behind you, Will.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's a house plant, right? So house plant's gonna house plant.
Hey, you know, it is what it is. Will, thanks.
Thanks, Will.
And we'll get you back on here as the rules
Oh,
get
before
on.
I go, could
Yeah.
I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got two things to say. First, the first thing I want to say is, as a board member, I want to personally thank former director Linda Nanorsi for her service to the Cannabis Control Board. She has truly been a titan on our board, and we couldn't have done half the work we did without her. And like losing her on this board was like losing an arm. And I just wanted people to know how truly good she was to this board, and I want to thank her for her service. Thank you, Linda DeNorsi. And the second thing I want to add, this I want to say as a voter, to the senators that passed the cannabis laws. I believe in rewarding our politicians when they do the right thing. So for all the senators that voted yes on passing cannabis, for one election cycle, I will 100% support you. If you need my help, I will knock on doors for you. I thank you all for the service you did to the cannabis industry. And I would encourage my fellow Parkinson people who like to do the cannabis thing to also support these people that voted for cannabis. Because if we don't thank them and support them for doing it, how do we get politicians to act on the will of the people in the future?
Thank you, Will. and
That's
thank-
all I have.